Welcome to Cosmic Dreams. You're not trapped in one life path. Quantum shift reveals that infinite, parallel realities orbit all around you like galaxies waiting to be chosen. Most people repeat old loops because their nervous system broadcasts fear, not frequency alignment. But when you learn the truth of timeline shifting, you stop forcing manifestation and start embodying energy vibration that the universe cannot ignore. Imagine your heart pulsing like a star, your breath syncing with cosmic tides, your body becoming pure cosmic awareness. This is the moment of spiritual awakening, where consciousness expansion dissolves limits, and the true law of attraction mirrors back the reality you finally choose. A slow breath expands in your chest as parallel earths glide past the edges of your awareness like tides you can feel but not name. Somewhere within that breath, a quiet voice says the cosmos is observing you, observing it. If manifestation has ever felt like shouting into a void, this is the moment we soften the shout and change the signal. Most of us keep circling the same outcomes, not because we are cursed, but because our orbit is set by an unseen coherence. How many times have you begged for change, only to wake up in the same loop? Don't carry that weight alone. Subscribe now and step into the timeline where your frequency finally sets you free. You do not switch timelines by wanting harder any more than a planet moves by pushing on itself. You switch by altering the energy of the system so completely that a new path becomes the only stable one. This is the quantum shift in plain terms. It is the art of broadcasting a different dominant signal through mind, heart, body, and behavior until reality rhymes with it. Desire is a spark, but coherence is the engine that actually turns. Think of timelines as orbital tracks, and think of your state as the thrusters that let you change lanes in space. When state changes, orbit changes, and outcomes that once required strain begin to arrive as if already owed. We are not here to play with jargon or sell certainty. We are here to use physics as metaphor for lived psychology and somatic craft. Usefulness over theatrics is our compass. We will speak of frequency to mean the felt rhythm of your nervous system. We will speak of alignment to mean your thoughts, emotions, posture, and actions humming in the same key. We will speak of coherence to mean a steady signal that the world can actually mirror. Imagine a deep purple field pricked with silent stars and the slow bloom of a lens flare as an idea lands. When a concept clicks in you, picture a waveform resolving into a constellation that you somehow always knew. Our language will move like night water, and our palette will glow with galaxies, because calm helps the body learn. Right now, take a simple 20-second state bust open like a door you forgot you could unlatch. Ask yourself in a whisper, what timeline does my posture advertise right now? If your body says hurry, your life will echo hurry. If your body says safe, your life will offer choices that only safety can see. The quantum shift is the practice of training this broadcast without superstition and without self-attack. It begins by noticing that the loudest thought is not the one the world hears. The dominant signal is the one repeated by breath, by tone, by stance, by daily micro choices. When those align with what you claim you want, reality stops arguing and starts organizing. Our journey moves from loop to lift off. First, we will name the loop that keeps capturing your orbit. Then we will light the thrusters of embodiment so the new trajectory holds. Finally, we will sustain the orbit with rituals tiny enough to survive real life. This is not a lecture to keep you awake at night, but a felt path you can walk with your eyes half closed. You will receive practices you can do in the times it takes a star to slide behind a cloud. You will hear a soundscape designed for nightly coherence, so your breath remembers without effort. You will get a simple timeline audit, so your stories stop piloting from the shadows. You will try a 24-hour shift lab, so evidence arrives while inspiration is still warm. We will use numbers like 3, 6, and 9, not as magic, but as rhythmic scaffolds your body can trust. We will let wave become star, and star become gentle gravity for the life you mean to live. If you are wary of promises you cannot test, keep your skepticism and bring it with you. Skepticism is simply a boundary asking for repeatable calm, and we will honor it. Let this opening be a door rather than a verdict. Let this breath be a small change in spin that makes docking with a better reality possible. And before we continue, ask one last quiet question that only your fascia can answer. If the cosmos is observing me observing it, what frequency am I teaching it to return? You think the universe ignores you because you are not loud enough, but the field is not listening for volume. It is listening for the signal you hold the longest. Your dominant signal is the average of your state across the day, not the fireworks of a single affirmation shouted in the morning. State lives in the body first, and the body speaks through interoception, the quiet language of sensation system broadcasts safety without a word. When vagal tone is weak, your breath turns shallow, your chest tightens, and your life begins to mirror the message that now is not a good time. 95% of your behavior runs on the autopilot of the subconscious, which favors what is familiar over what is freeing. The brain equates familiar with safe, even when familiar is painful, and so the loop gets care and feeding by accident. Resistance is not laziness, but camouflage, arriving as overthinking, as perfectionism, as the sensible voice that insists you should be realistic. Resistance also arrives as productive avoidance, as doom scrolling that freezes your body, and as the numb flatness that follows one stress too many. These are not moral failings. They are protective reflexes your nervous system learned to keep you from the unknown. Somatic anchors keep the old timeline docked, like shallow breathing, a collapsed posture, a clenched jaw, darting eyes, and that relentless speed-walking baseline. Predictive processing means your brain bets on yesterday and spends today searching for proof that the bet was correct. The reticular activating system tunes your attention to what matches your expectation, so you find doors where you expect doors and walls where you expect walls. Habits obey the physics of inertia, and orbits obey the gravity of what you rehearse. So changing lanes requires a clean input of energy rather than more effort at the same frequency. In space, that input is delta V, and in a life, that input is coherence, introduced consistently until the new path captures you. The observer effect is a metaphor here, and a useful one, because your beliefs, your emotions, and your expectations decide which possibilities you are willing to touch. Chemistry narrows or widens your world, since cortisol and adrenaline sharpen survival and tunnel your vision, while oxytocin and cues of safety broaden choice and soften time. Identity acts as glue for the loop, because every repeated story like money is stressful, or I am always late, becomes a beacon your actions steer toward. Language audits matter, because sentences are spells you cast in your own bloodstream. You can see the loop by its weather, the moods that return on schedule, the endings that repeat with new faces, and the deja vu that tastes like disappointment. Try a simple lived experiment and watch the signal surface without judgment. Pay a small bill and notice the exact second your breath shortens and your shoulders rise, as if the future just closed a door. Feel the tiny flinch in your belly and the micro clench in your jaw, and the impulse to click away before the exhale completes. Name it softly and lengthen your out breath, and send the payment while your spine grows instead of shrinks. That is a different broadcast, and the world will treat you as you treat your nervous system in those minutes. Now take a 60-second self-scan and collect data astronomer, notice breath depth behind the sternum and whether the ribs move like tide or like stone. Notice shoulder height and whether they live near your ears as if listening for danger. Notice tongue position and whether it is glued to the roof of your mouth and whispering, hurry. Notice your gaze and whether it skates near your feet or rests on a far horizon that admits tomorrow exists. Notice the belly and whether it is rigid plate or warm field, and record the answer without blame. Your body is the dashboard of the ship, and the loop lights show up here before anywhere else. Think like a pilot approaching the station in orbit, because you cannot dock while you are spinning out of phase. You match spin first and contact happens without force. And that is the discipline of coherence before action. You will be tempted to wrestle the loop, but grappling feeds it because attention is nutrition. You will be tempted to wait for confidence, but confidence is the dividend of small regulated risks, not the capital you start with. You will be tempted to manufacture a louder intention, but screaming only tightens the throat and advertises fear. Your work is to make the dominant signal kinder, slower, deeper, and more believable to your own tissues. Your work is to let breath and posture and tone agree with the sentence you are choosing to live. Your work is to become the place where a new orbit is easy. When the body registers safety, the mind can afford imagination. And when imagination is permitted, the world grows new handles. This is how possibility stops being an idea and starts being a reachable dock. You are not fixing yourself. You are phasing yourself into alignment with outcomes that require less friction. You are not faking calm. You are teaching your cells a rhythm that opens choices on command. The loop cannot run without its fuel, and the fuel is the chemistry of threat, paired with the story that you have no say. We do not fight the loop, we remove its fuel, and in the next movement, we will generate the new dominant signal on purpose. We cross a bridge now where stars become sentences, and physics becomes a mirror for lived experience, rather than a courtroom for impossible proof. Cosmology offers metaphors precise enough to orient us and humble enough to keep our feet on the floor. When I speak of decoherence, I am pointing to the scattered mind that cannot hold a signal long enough for life to lock on. When I speak of coherence, I am pointing to the moment your thoughts, your breath, your posture, and your voice begin to hum in the same key. Resonance explains why a slow, grateful breath can entrain your heartbeat, and why is the felt click when breath, heart, and voice settle into one rhythm and behavior suddenly becomes effortless. Imagine inflation's bubble universes not as literal neighbors, but as an image for parallel choices expanding faster than your stories about them. Imagine the cosmic microwave background as a faint memory of the first fire still whispering through space, the way your early imprints still whisper through your days. Look at spiral galaxies and see the mathematics of return, the way your life curls back to themes until a new force vector nudges the arc. Sacred geometry here is pattern literacy, not superstition and phi, or the Fibonacci spiral. Simply teach your eyes to recognize order. We use these shapes as scaffolding for attention because attention travels more easily along forms it already trusts. Numbers like 3, 6, and 9 are not keys to the universe, but elegant tempos that help the body learn safety by repetition. 3 intentions in the morning, 6 slow breaths at midday, 9 seconds of stillness at night become rails that carry you across fatigue. If you want inspirations from living systems, consider how efficiency improves when parts cooperate, and then treat that as a parable for your inner parts. Photosynthetic pathways have been modeled as using coherence to move energy with less waste, and that image can remind you to waste less willpower. Bird navigation has been hypothesized to involve quantum-sensitive proteins, and whether or not the details hold the metaphor is clear. Sensitivity increases when noise decreases, and your choices sharpen when your inner static quiets. Even enzyme tunneling is a story we tell ourselves about how tiny leaps become possible when the conditions are exquisitely prepared. Let the moral be simple and actionable, and let it be this: order improves efficiency, and efficiency frees compassion. Language hygiene protects that order because the phrases you repeat are handles your nervous system grabs in crisis. Swap: I am cursed, for I am returning. Swap: I always panic, for my breath gets small, and I am learning to widen it. Swap vibration creates money for coherence, reduces self-sabotage, and increases opportunity recognition and prosocial signals. Entanglement serves beautifully as a human metaphor when we remember that bodies sync. Your voice prosody calms another person's heart, and their steady gaze calms yours, and choices improve when systems co-regulate. This is why community accelerates growth, and why isolation makes willpower expensive. Timelines can be imagined as adjacent stable attractors that compete for your allegiance. A few repeated inputs tip the balance the way a gentle, constant thrust moves a craft into a new orbit. Picture a wave of possibility star's gravity rearranges the dust around it. State condenses into identity, and identity reshapes environment. This bridge requires caution because metaphors are sharp tools. Red flags appear when guarantees are offered about externals you cannot control, and when doubt is shamed instead of guided. Keep sovereignty by promising only what you can train, which is state behavior skill and the spaces you choose to inhabit. Let physics remain a field of wonder, and let your life remain a field of practice. If a claim tempts you to abandon common sense or medical care for spectacle, treat that temptation as noise and return to breath. If an image fills you with awe but leaves you powerless, refine the image until it hands you a lever you can actually pull. Our lever is coherence, and our map is meaning, and our instrument panel is the body you carry everywhere you go. Understanding is the sky chart, and embodiment is the engine that turns ink into travel. You do not need to resolve the mysteries of the cosmos to change how your shoulders rest on a Tuesday afternoon. You do not need to master equations to master the tempo of your exhale. Let astronomy make you honest, and let biology make you kind. Let the galaxies remind you that expansion is patient, and that orbits are changed by small burns repeated with care. In a moment, we will leave the bridge and step into repeatable protocols that treat your system as a craft worth piloting. We will tune breath, posture, language, and micro choices until your signal is steady enough to dock with what you mean to live. Carry this promise forward like a quiet star in your pocket. The map will not move you, but it will keep you from getting lost while you learn to move yourself. This is the engine room where ideas become a body that can carry them. Embodiment is not performance, but instruction to your tissues in a language they understand. Begin with a simple coherence stack that fits inside 10 quiet minutes and changes how the day receives you. Lengthen the back of your neck as if a gentle thread lifts the crown, while your ribs soften and stop bracing. Let your breath settle toward a slow cadence, near 6 breaths each minute, with an inhale of 4 or 5 and an exhale of 5 or 6. Place attention in the center of your chest and recall one precise moment of gratitude, vivid enough to warm the skin from the inside. Hum or tone on the out-breath for a minute or 2 and feel the vibration under the breastbone. Steady the heart and loosen the throat. Let your gaze rest on a far horizon and turn your head slowly left and right so the midbrain receives proof that nothing hunts you here. Only now speak a single is the gatekeeper and intent waits outside until safety opens it. From this space, you can engineer frequency in the domains that cost you the most energy and return the greatest abundance. For money coherence, begin with acts so small they cannot scare your nervous system, and pay one tiny bill while relaxing your exhale. Keep your spine expansive as you click send and narrate gently that this is circulation, not loss, and that value moves in cycles like tide. Offer 3 micro acts of generosity before noon, and notice how the body learns that giving need not equal depletion. Audit your money language and trade the word expensive for high commitment and the phrase I cannot, for I choose differently today. Once a week, list the resources you already have and let enoughness become a felt inventory rather than a theory. Spend with presence, or do not spend at all, so your transactions stop carrying the aftertaste of panic. For love coherence, begin with breath that softens the sternum and let the chest rise as if sunlight lives there. Hold your own gaze in a mirror for 30 seconds without judgment and practice the skill of staying when you want to look away. Speak one vulnerable sentence to a safe human each day and allow your voice to shake without treating it as a problem to fix. When repair is needed, use the structure. When this happened, I felt this, and I need this, so your nervous systems can find each other without blame. Send warmth with your body before you send words, so posture and tone do not sabotage the message you hope to deliver. For health coherence, begin each meal with 3 slow breaths and a pause of gratitude for the labor of unseen organs. Move your spine in simple waves for 5 minutes after waking and let circulation announce that the day can start without violence. Design a gentle wind down with slow tempo sound and low light so your system learns to descend rather than crash. Meet the morning with a minute of outdoor light so the clock in your cells knows where it is in the sky of time. For purpose coherence, write one North Star sentence by hand each day and let it be short enough to survive a hard week. Enter focus blocks with the same ritual of breath, posture, and intent, so your brain associates work with steadiness rather than strain. End each block with one line of gratitude for what moved and one line of closure, so the task stops rattling inside your ribs. Practice saying no from alignment and allow refusal to be a gift to both parties, because clarity is clean energy. Use the rhythm of 3, 6, and 9 as scaffolding rather than superstition, so structure does the heavy lifting when motivation is low. Name 3 sensations of safety on waking, so the day begins with evidence instead of vows. take 6 slow breaths at midday and speak 6 words that describe the identity you are rehearsing until the words feel plausible in your mouth. Hold 9 seconds of stillness before sleep and write 1 line of proof that the new timeline left footprints today. Let your environment broadcast on your behalf with scents that cue calm and lights that turn warm when evening arrives. Clear enough surfaces that your eyes can rest and place 1 purple galaxy image where your breath can find it on difficult afternoons. Protect rituals from dilution by refusing to multitask while you regulate, and by ending doom scrolling before the clock tips toward midnight. Retire future dripping phrases and retire the habit of insulting yourself as a joke, because sarcasm is a quiet frequency that leaks into action. Treat every practice as an invitation you can accept for 60 seconds rather than a contract you can break only by failure. If your system wobbles, shorten the practice and lengthen the kindness so training remains associated with safety, not pressure. Imagine a gentle overlay of stars pulsing at your breath tempo as you work, so your senses hitch coherence to something beautiful. Return to the engine room whenever the loop pulls and run the stack without drama, because reliability is how trust is built. If you're tired of forcing affirmations that never work, of feeling trapped in scarcity, fear, or rejection, this space is for you. Join us and let your soul breathe in alignment with the cosmos. You are not trying to feel perfect. You are teaching your body to return quickly, and that speed of return is the new definition of strength. When coherence becomes the dominant signal, choices that once took willpower begin to choose you back. When choices choose you back, the orbit changes without spectacle, and the new timeline stops being an idea and starts being a road. Hold this day as a laboratory rather than a verdict, and collect small data rather than grand epiphanies. What you practice is what you broadcast, and what you broadcast is what begins to gather around you. The protocols are simple on purpose, so you can carry them through heavy weather without dropping them. In the next movement, we will compress these principles into a single 24-hour experiment, so evidence arrives where doubt once lived. This is the day you turn theory into orbit by living one deliberate revolution around your own sun. You wake without rushing and let the room stay dim while your spine grows a little taller from the crown to the tail. Your breath finds a slow tide, and you count a soft 4 on the inhale and a longer 6 on the exhale until the body believes you. Your chest warms with one precise memory of gratitude, and the warmth spreads like dawn across a quiet sea. You speak a single sentence that fits in your mouth like a key, and you let the sentence point your frequency match the frequency of enough becomes a compass rather than a slogan. You ask what timeline your posture advertises, and you adjust the advertisement with one gentle roll of the shoulders and the release of your jaw. You open the blinds as if opening a hatch, and you let the farthest thing you can see anchor your horizon. The lab begins with a simple audit that replaces shame with curiosity and data. You name the loop that visits most, and you notice the earliest body cue that announces its arrival. You trace the trigger that usually lights the fuse, and you observe the story that rushes in to explain the body. You promise yourself to catch the cue at the earliest possible moment and return rather than argue. You choose 3 micro alignments as if choosing 3 steady notes for a song you can hum all day. You decide to walk 10% slower between tasks so your bones stop sprinting while your mind pretends to be calm. You send one message of appreciation without expecting a reply, so your nervous system remembers abundance is not only money. You look at the far distance for 30 seconds before opening a demanding tab, so your midbrain records safety before work. When the old pattern tries to seize the helm, you change the lighting of the room by 1 shade so the senses register a new scene. When the script of scarcity opens its mouth, you drink a glass of water like a signal flare, and you draw 1 longer exhale than usual. When your focus begins to fray, you widen your stance and let your feet read the floor until the floor answers, "I am here." The day contains 3 tiny labs that cost almost nothing, and pay attention back with interest. You give money coherence 1 minute by paying a small bill with an expanding spine and a patient out breath that says circulation. You give love coherence 1 minute by softening the chest and speaking 1 honest sentence to a safe person or to the mirror if no one answers. You give health coherence 1 minute by placing a hand on your belly and feeling breath travel all the way down before the next mouthful or step. At midday, you reboot with 6 slow breaths and a micro smile that begins at the eyes and ends at the throat. You whisper the morning sentence again and notice it fits more easily now that the body has rehearsed it in motion. You allow a single chime or tone to mark the reset, so your cells learn that sound is permission to slow. The afternoon asks for 1 small, brave act that proves you can steer during ordinary weather. You say no to a misaligned request without apology, and you let the silence after the no be a teacher rather than a threat. You tidy 1 square foot of your field so your eyes have a place to rest when the mind grows busy. You finish a task and write 1 line of gratitude for the movement your system stops carrying it in secret. You keep metrics like a gardener rather than a judge, and you rate mood energy and self-trust on a quiet scale without ceremony. You record the time it took to return after the last wobble, because return speed is the most honest measure of strength. You let the numbers exist without verdict, and you remember that obsession is another loop wearing a mask. If the spiral begins, you treat it like weather rather than identity, and you run your contingency in the order that calms you fastest. You hydrate, and you step near a window, and you exhale longer than you think you can, and you text one supportive sentence to someone who has earned it. You choose earlier sleep rather than later scrolling, because darkness is a medicine when you take it as a dose, not a punishment. You repair language in real time and trade. I failed for, I am returning, because the body believes whichever story you repeat. The soundtrack of the day is slow bloom and low percussion, and you let the music breathe at the same tempo as your chest. Your visuals are star fields that pulse with your cadence, so the room becomes a soft metronome for coherence. You let the numbers 3, 6, and 9 become timing posts rather than talismans, and you rest on them like stepping stones across a stream. You end the work of daylight by writing an evidence log that lists where the new timeline left footprints you could actually touch. You name one wobble without drama, and you name the exact action that brought you back, so the nervous system files the route for reuse. You step outside or you stand at the window, and you let one star or one distant light remind your eyes that far exists. You let gratitude play the closing note, because gratitude is the emotional signature of already having, and the universe tends to echo signatures. You speak the intent line once more, and you hear it land deeper now that the day has proven it belongs. You prepare the night so tomorrow begins easier, and you place water by the bed and a pen where your hand will find it without searching. You reduce the light and the noise, and you let the room cool by 1 degree, because physiology loves small mercies more than grand speeches. You tell your future self that you made the day simpler to enter, and you trust that the message will be delivered when morning arrives. You close the lab with a promise that is not a bargain, and you promise to keep the practices small enough that your life can actually hold them. You promise to meet wobbles with returns, and to treat returns as victories, and to collect proof rather than perfection. You understand now that evidence is the antidote to doubt, and that evidence grows in places where breath is slow and shoulders are low. You see that coherence is a patient kind of gravity, and that gravity quietly moves worlds without applause. You feel how different your sentence, and your sentence matched your breath. You notice that nothing miraculous happened, and yet the air around choices is wider, and the floor beneath emotions is thicker. You recognize that one day like this does not change the galaxy, and that one day like this changes the pilot. You decide to treat tomorrow as another single orbit without the weight of forever. You accept the invitation to try again, because trying again is the signature of a new identity. You rest knowing the field answers the signal you hold the longest, and that today you held it long enough to be heard. You close your eyes and let the stars breathe with you, and you let the room agree that the experiment worked in the only way that matters. You sleep inside a sentence that fits, and you trust that the sentence will still be there when the light returns. Sustaining the orbit means treating coherence like a daily currency rather than a rare event. You create a small coherence budget and protect two non-negotiables that anchor the rest. One is breath cadence that stays slower than your hurry and teaches your heart a calmer drum. The other is a posture check that lifts crown and softens ribs, so your body keeps advertising safety. Everything else stacks more easily when those two signals run in the background like music. Across the week you build a frequency stack that touches body emotion, meaning relationship, and environment. You let the body remember through movement and sleep hygiene and morning light that the day is safe to enter. You let emotion move without indictment and give it breath and language and space to finish. You let meaning stay simple and writable in one sentence that you can keep during heavy weather. You let relationship become co-regulation rather than performance, and you choose rooms that help your nervous system. You let environment take sides with you by being less noisy, less cluttered, and kinder to your eyes at night. Seasonality matters because humans are tides, and some weeks carry less sun and more weight. You adjust aims on low light days so the orbit stays stable rather than heroic and brittle. You name your cycles so your calendar becomes a compassion device instead of a self-betrayal machine. Myths lose power when you speak them aloud and offer replacements that your tissues can use. Manifestation is not think rich, get rich, but state guides behavior, and behavior grows skill, and skill opens doors. Mastery is not never feel fear, but return faster and cleaner when fear arrives to do its job. physics does not guarantee outcomes, and your sovereignty lives in the levers you can actually pull. Proof is not only trophies and windfalls, but tiny frictions that vanish and repairs that happen sooner and tenderness that lasts longer. You collect story continuity by tracking evidence, not slogans, and by noticing the smallest places where life stops arguing. Creative flow becomes a coherent signature when your breath, your eyes, and your hands travel at the same tempo. Dreams turn into integration labs when you honor them in the morning with a pen and a line or two of image. Non-ordinary states require boundaries, and you keep them simple and safe and gentle on the nervous system. You let community act as an amplifier because bodies synchronize, and willpower is a poor substitute for co-regulation. You curate inputs and follow voices that calm, and rooms that breathe, and people who keep their promises. You design an identity that can hold this orbit, and you harden it in a kind way. You craft a two-line vow that fits inside your breath, and you record it in your own voice for the night. You let it play softly over a star field, so your sleeping brain hears you tell the truth without urgency. Metrics that matter become honest and small and stubbornly hopeful. You measure time to return after a wobble, because return speed is strength you can train. You count fewer self-betrayals because keeping tiny promises builds a gravity that nothing else can fake. You celebrate clean nose because clarity is renewable energy, and resentment is expensive fuel. You notice that your breath baseline grows deeper and slower, and that decisions stop trembling in your hands. You close each day with a simple ritual that tells your cells the orbit is holding. You step outside or to a window and let one star widen your eyes until the edges of the room dissolve. You whisper gratitude as the emotional signature of already having, and you let it settle behind your sternum. You've suffered enough repeating the same endings. Break the cycle, claim the version of you that's been waiting all along. Subscribe and walk with us into coherence, into freedom, into your true orbit. You speak one intent line as if placing a small lantern on the next hour of your path. You imagine constellations rearranging to match the new broadcast, and you feel the faint tug of their reply. You let sleep arrive as a trustworthy technician that rewires what you practiced while the lights are low. You wake knowing sustainability is the art of small returns lived many times rather than a single spectacle. You carry forward the understanding that identity is shaped by what you repeat with kindness. You choose one gentle act within the next day that belongs to the self you are rehearsing. You name one word for the loop you are breaking, and you keep it in your pocket like a polished stone. You offer your presence to a circle that values coherence, so your signal stays steady when storms come. You remember that the map cannot move you, and that engines only matter when they fire. You commit to firing them lightly and often, so the craft stays in phase with the life you mean to live. You end with a quiet vow that is not dramatic and not brittle, and entirely yours to keep. You promise to return, and to keep returning until return is the way you move. You're not trapped in one life path. Quantum shift reveals that infinite, parallel realities orbit all around you like galaxies waiting to be chosen. Most people repeat old loops because their nervous system broadcasts fear, not frequency alignment. But when you learn the truth of timeline shifting, you stop forcing manifestation and start embodying energy vibration that the universe cannot ignore. Imagine your heart pulsing like a star, your breath syncing with cosmic tides, your body becoming pure cosmic awareness. This is the moment of spiritual awakening, where consciousness expansion dissolves limits, and the true law of attraction mirrors back the reality you finally choose. A slow breath expands in your chest as parallel earths glide past the edges of your awareness like tides you can feel but not name. Somewhere within that breath, a quiet voice says the cosmos is observing you, observing it. If manifestation has ever felt like shouting into a void, this is the moment we soften the shout and change the signal. Most of us keep circling the same outcomes, not because we are cursed, but because our orbit is set by an unseen coherence. How many times have you begged for change, only to wake up in the same loop? Don't carry that weight alone. Subscribe now and step into the timeline where your frequency finally sets you free. You do not switch timelines by wanting harder any more than a planet moves by pushing on itself. You switch by altering the energy of the system so completely that a new path becomes the only stable one. This is the quantum shift in plain terms. It is the art of broadcasting a different dominant signal through mind, heart, body, and behavior until reality rhymes with it. Desire is a spark, but coherence is the engine that actually turns. Think of timelines as orbital tracks, and think of your state as the thrusters that let you change lanes in space. When state changes, orbit changes, and outcomes that once required strain begin to arrive as if already owed. We are not here to play with jargon or sell certainty. We are here to use physics as metaphor for lived psychology and somatic craft. Usefulness over theatrics is our compass. We will speak of frequency to mean the felt rhythm of your nervous system. We will speak of alignment to mean your thoughts, emotions, posture, and actions humming in the same key. We will speak of coherence to mean a steady signal that the world can actually mirror. Imagine a deep purple field pricked with silent stars and the slow bloom of a lens flare as an idea lands. When a concept clicks in you, picture a waveform resolving into a constellation that you somehow always knew. Our language will move like night water, and our palette will glow with galaxies, because calm helps the body learn. Right now, take a simple 20-second state snap to feel what we mean. Inhale slowly for a count of 4 and let the ribs widen without effort. Hold for 2 as your jaw softens and your eyes settle on the horizon. Exhale for 6 and feel your shoulders drop and your chest open like a door you forgot you could unlatch. Ask yourself in a whisper, what timeline does my posture advertise right now? If your body says hurry, your life will echo hurry. If your body says safe, your life will offer choices that only safety can see. The quantum shift is the practice of training this broadcast without superstition and without self-attack. It begins by noticing that the loudest thought is not the one the world hears. The dominant signal is the one repeated by breath, by tone, by stance, by daily micro choices. When those align with what you claim you want, reality stops arguing and starts organizing. Our journey moves from loop to lift off. First, we will name the loop that keeps capturing your orbit. Then we will light the thrusters of embodiment so the new trajectory holds. Finally, we will sustain the orbit with rituals tiny enough to survive real life. This is not a lecture to keep you awake at night, but a felt path you can walk with your eyes half closed. You will receive practices you can do in the times it takes a star to slide behind a cloud. You will hear a soundscape designed for nightly coherence, so your breath remembers without effort. You will get a simple timeline audit, so your stories stop piloting from the shadows. You will try a 24-hour shift lab, so evidence arrives while inspiration is still warm. We will use numbers like 3, 6,